self-help. This is your chance to change your life. So I have Gabby on today, and I have been a fan of hers for so long. If you have not heard of her, I will give just a brief intro, but I have to say you need to get out from that rock you're living under because she is pretty huge. She is a best-selling author, speaker, and spiritual teacher known for her work in personal development and mindfulness. She's written several books, including The Universe Has Your Back, which is the one that I first found out about her through. And this book really helped me. I think I was like in my late 20s when I read it, and it was amazing. Also, Super Attractor. She has a focus on spirituality, meditation, and the power of intention. Through her podcast, workshops, and social media presence, Gabby inspires audiences to cultivate inner peace and manifest their dreams. She is recognized for her approachable style and practical guidance, and I just had such a great connection with her today. She actually channeled something from, I don't know, the spirits directly to me, and it was a message that that they said that I need to basically be completely sober. And this is something that obviously I've probably annoyed you guys to death with, like, and everybody else in my life, of just being like, should I stop drinking? I don't know. It makes me feel like crap. Is it messing with my hormones? I feel like my hormones are out of whack. And then all the like hormone specialists we have on the podcast are basically saying, oh yeah, alcohol is the worst thing you can do for your gut health and for your hormones and for your mental health. And those are all things that, quite frankly, I really struggle with. So Gabby told me today, which is October 27th or something, that I should honestly, she said that you should seek a program, which you guys know I do love an AA program. So maybe I'll start going to meetings again. And then I'm going to check back in here right before I launch this episode, end of December. And I really hope I can show up and be like, I've been sober ever since that time I told you I wasn't going to touch anything. But maybe I won't be. And that is real life too, because shit doesn't always work out the way you want it to, or the way that you set out for it to. But I'm going to try, because I'm quite frankly, I'm sick of hearing myself asking if I should, and I'm just going to give it a shot. So maybe I'll have some new life inspiration that I've learned from my, what would it have been? Not that many, 2 months of sobriety. So we'll see. But anyways, she talked about so many things on this episode: motherhood, and spirit guides, and her sobriety. That's how the conversation started. She's 20 years sober, and she says, has she ever thought about alcohol since then? And she said, yeah, last week I was standing over a bottle of wine and being like, maybe I should drink right now, which I just think is so amazing that, you can have all this work under your belt and so many years of therapy. And it's like, if something's off in your chemistry, in your hormones, it can make us just turn to our most infantile decision making sometimes. One of the things that I was really excited to talk about with her is hormones, because she is really into hormones right now too. I think basically like all women are. There's so many things that are disrupting our hormones these days. And I think now that we realize so much of our life and happiness and motivation and sex drive and everything is guided by our hormones, when that is off, it can cause so many problems in life. And she was just able to tackle that with hormone replacement therapy. And I'm going to let her speak more about that. But I hope you guys enjoy the episode. I had so much fun talking to her. Thank you so much for being on Barely Filtered Podcast. It's so nice to meet you in person.
It's so good to meet you.
I'm definitely one of your longtime fangirls. I think I found Super Attractor, or The Universe Has Your Back at a time in my life, which I feel like so many of my listeners can relate to this, when it couldn't have come at a more perfect time. It's like you seem to find what you need to hear at the exact moment that you need it. And I think you were one of the first people that I ever heard the concept of like angel spirit guides. Can you talk about that? How are you so sure about this? I keep going back in my head and I'm like, are my spirit guides there? I want to believe it.
Yeah.
How do you find conviction in that?
I think that we all have that connection, but we can choose to tap into it or not. Yeah. And we some people might have more of a sixth sense and might have more of a capability of mediumship to connect to the spiritual realm than others, just the same way somebody might more naturally play the piano and someone might be a little bit harder, right? But we all could play the piano if we wanted to. And so, I mean, yes. So this is sort of the concept, is that you have this innate ability to have access to the spiritual realm. And what happens is that we block it. So throughout our lives, we build up all of these different fear-based experiences that build up a wall or a veil against that presence of that spiritual connection. And so the way to get back to that presence of spiritual connection isn't about doing. It's actually about releasing, and undoing all of the fear-based blocks and the worldly events and the inner belief systems that are absent of that spiritual faith.
Yeah. Do you think people who have more trauma then are like less likely to be able to tap into that? Or
I actually think more likely.
Yeah.
Because when you have experienced the depths of trauma, you often crack open. You often hit a bottom. And so it's those of us who have had the cracking open that when you have those moments of hitting a bottom, you have the opportunity to it's almost like, where else can I go? There's that beautiful Rumi quote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you."
Totally. I think one of the ways I really connected with you too is, I think I read your book when I was 25. I'm 35 now. And at the time I was like, do I need to be sober? And 10 years have gone by, and I've still had this relationship of like, some years could be really good and I'm still like drinking here and there. And like, I know you had a cocaine addiction problem, which to me, it's like, whether it's cocaine or alcohol or whatever it is, it's like, I wonder sometimes, and I still struggle with this, of like, okay, I don't have an abusive relationship with substances anymore, but what I feel like in a way they block my ability to connect with spirit. Do you find that?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Do you think everybody should be sober?
I would never say should to anyone.
Okay.
I think that it really depends on your relationship to substances, but I also think it's how you metabolize it and how it affects you and your nervous system. Because look, if you were to say to me, Gabby, if I have two choices, should I be sober or not? I'd say choose sobriety, because yes, you're going to have a much heightened level of consciousness. You're going to age slower. You're going to be, benefiting your brain dramatically. You're going to sleep better, which is going to affect every part of your nervous system, every cell in your body. Mm-hmm. You'll have less hormonal fluctuations. I mean, just the list of benefits goes on and on and on. But if you have a healthy relationship with alcohol and it brings you joy, and it's something that you use when you're having a great time with friends, or you love, or you really enjoy fine wines, or it's not an extreme pattern, and it's not affecting you negatively physically, and then enjoy your life. Yeah. So I think that it's really about your own personal assessment, but the benefits of not drinking are extreme. They're really extreme.
Do you find that your sobriety, do you think you'd be in the same place you are today had you... Okay, well, let me rephrase
I'd be
this.
Dead if I
You'd be dead.
sober.
Okay, we're not going to go there with you. Like, do you think at this point in your life, having like gone through so much, growth and spiritual awakening and done so much inner work, do you think if you were to pick up a glass of wine today, like it would have the same, do you think you'd spiral into a full-blown drug addiction again?
Well, I'm 19 years sober.
Okay.
And in my sober practice, I still would recognize myself as a drug addict and alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And the reason that we do that is because you never want to forget where you came from. Yeah. Because as you get healthier and healthier and healthier, you could have that belief of like, I could handle this, I could do this. And I have zero interest in having any other consciousness except for this. Mm-hmm. Now, like, at this stage in my life, could I have a different relationship with alcohol? Like, maybe, but why?
But why?
Yeah, but why? And most people who may have 16 or 19 years of sobriety like me, but maybe they haven't done as much personal development work, they could go right back to ground zero, right where they started, mm-hmm. right? And I probably would too, because if I were to pick up a drink, there'd be a reason I picked up that drink. Yeah. And that could be it's a numbing device. It's a protection mechanism.
Right. I talk to a lot of people about this just because I feel like kind of like sober curiosity is a big thing right now. And I find it to be the times in my life when I'm really conscious about not reaching to find God in a man or in a substance or in something else. Like that's when I really can feel most connected to, I guess maybe they are spirit guides. I don't really know what to call them, but like just a way in which the universe is really meeting me halfway on things. And then I kind of like fall off the wagon. And I wonder, like, do you ever kind of like relapse in your spirituality, like just fall off the wagon?
I think that life is offering us many moments to relapse, right? So I'm 45 and I just went into menopause, right? So like that was like fucking shit show before I got on hormones. I'm fabulous now. Like I'm gonna be like the hottest 45-year-old you've ever seen.
You already are.
Thank you. And it's only gonna get better because I'm now gonna have like hormones of a 25-year-old. But like that shit's real. And so that almost, I mean, that 6 months ago I was standing over a bottle of wine being like, should I just do this? Because I'm gonna fucking die, you know?
I feel you with the hormone thing.
It's an extreme thing, and everyone listening, go get your hormone panel at least once a year and get a thorough panel. It's my biggest PSA to women. Get an awareness of where your hormones are at, and it's never too. You can take hormone replacement therapy at a young age. It's. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but that's the message these days. Okay, and get help. So that happened recently, and am I going to relapse to drugs and alcohol? No, but did I think about it? 6 months ago when I was at my lowest low, yeah, there was 3 or 4 times in my life where I thought about picking up a drink. 2 of those times were hormonally ignited.
Yeah. And isn't that crazy? I think so many people listening would be shocked to hear that, but it's like, this is somebody who's written 10 books now, and we're going to talk about your newest, which I'm so excited about, comes out at the end of December. But to know that like even you 20 years sober almost are like, can go through a hormone fluctuation and be like, I want to feel good right now, and I'm willing to fuck it all and throw it all away.
And it wasn't even like, I want to feel good right now. It's like, I want to die right now. I'm going to just I'm just going to light shit up. Right. Yeah. Because when you're having a hormonal when you're having a hormonal issue, you're having a biochemical issue, your brain is changed. And your brain isn't working properly. Yeah. And so you actually go into depression, you go into suicidal ideation, you can go, it's very, very extreme. And that's happened to me in postpartum, and then happened to me in menopause. Yeah. And I'm just, I want to talk about it everywhere I go, because I want people to just get their hormones checked and know that there's help.
Yeah. I actually, after you, I have a guest on who's one of the most like celebrated fertility and hormone doctors. And so I've talked to so many people, and it seems like the hormone thing keeps coming up to the point where like my management's like, are we a hormone podcast? Like, but it's so true that
it's really important that you're talking about it, because your demo, it needs to hear it now.
Yeah. Like I'm 35, but
I wish I had been on hormone replacement therapy at 35. Yeah. Because my hormones were, I may not have needed it then. That's a little extreme. But after I had my first child at 39, I had very serious postpartum depression. And now 6 years later, I realized that if I had HRT then, I wouldn't have had that depression.
I feel that. I mean, I after I had my son, which we both just realized, we both have 6-year-old sons. When's your son's birthday?
It's December 18th.
Oh, okay.
So he'll be turning 6.
Oh, okay. Remy's a little older. But yeah, I had postpartum, like catastrophic anxiety, where I was like, you would think about postpartum depression as like you can't get out of bed, but for me it was like I was hyper vigilant.
Yeah, that's what I had. I had postpartum anxiety.
Yeah, that with all the ups is a very extreme low, but with that I feel like, okay, so they put me on an SSRI and it really helped.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was amazing. But then I got pregnant with my daughter, and I had perinatal depression during that, because I wasn't on the antidepressants anymore. It's like, and I really feel like my hormones have never, like the issue was masked by the SSRI, but the hormones have never gotten to a place where it's.
That's exactly what happened to me. I was on the SSRI, so I was able to survive, right? That's very important medication for survival. Yeah. But had the hormonal stuff been in check, I could have probably titrated down from the SSRI sooner, or I could have just been in a better place. Yeah. So there's no accident that you have this doctor on next, and you should have her do a hormone panel on you, and then just figure out if you need HRT, and that's it. There's no other question.
I already did a hormone panel. My hormones are way out of whack, and lately I felt like
why would you wait? Go get replacement. Go get hormones.
I think there's this part of me trying to be a very spiritual oriented person.
Get the fuck over that. Okay, this is probably the most important thing I could say to listeners right now. Do not spiritually bypass your physical conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. Do not wellness your way out of these things. They're like a hormone replacement therapy or a SSRI when needed, or these things are life-saving.
Right.
There's no amount of ashwagandha that can help menopause. Okay?
I've taken a lot. What about maca?
Maca ain't going to help if you have no more testosterone. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
So this is so important because I was brought up homeopathic. Having that mentality of like, I feel like I'm too spiritual for this, or I'm going to wellness my way out of it, took 4 months off of my life. It almost took my life in postpartum depression. And so thankfully I had that experience, because when I was going through the menopause 6 months ago, I knew right away, I need medication. I need help. This is not right. This is not where I should be. There's no amount of ashwagandha that's going to help me now.
And so you feel like tremendously better from this.
I feel like I'm on fucking fire.
Oh my God. Okay, I want what you have.
It's very easy to get, my love. And I'm not, look, you only go on HRT if you need it, right?
Yeah.
So like if your hormones are all out of whack, get the support you need. This is a serious condition.
Yeah.
It takes people's lives.
I feel like so many people's hormones are though. And I mean, it's because of the food, like and all of the microplastics and all the things.
We're way worse. We also are, there's a million reasons. We're hypervigilant. We're anxious. There's a million reasons why it's worse.
I know. I was actually just listening to the episode that you did with the Skinny Confidential, and I was hearing all three of you talk about like, oh yeah, we're we lean towards being really highly productive and the boss culture and all of this stuff. And I'm just kind of like, in my head, I'm like, I don't think I'm a boss babe. Like, and I also don't think I'm a trad wife. And I'm just like,
what's a trad wife?
Trad wife is like, so it's like, there's like two things you could be nowadays. It's either a trad wife where you're like home making sourdoughs and like, it's like very
what does trad stand
traditional.
For? Oh, trad wife.
Yeah, but it's like a very like trendy thing right now. Or you're a boss babe. And I feel like in this culture, it's like you have to pick one. And I think
I'm both.
You are, yeah.
I'm definitely lean more boss babe than trad wife, but I'm definitely home, not making sourdough, but I would love to be home and just like doing.
I know. It's been hard to.
I'm definitely more boss babe than trad wife.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think you. I think you are a total boss babe. But it's just only because of your level of productivity.
That's
which
right, yeah.
Do you feel like? Let's talk about that, because obviously you've been able to accomplish so much. Is this like a flow that you feel does not require a lot of effort for you?
Now, like literally as of like 3 months ago.
Okay.
It's that, and I mean that. I really mean that. It's like 19 years of hard work for overnight success, because I've been on a very, very devoted spiritual and therapeutic path for nearly 2 decades.
Yeah.
And I am the most courageous person I know. I am the most devoted personal development person I've ever met in my entire life.
What do you mean when you say I'm the most courageous person?
That I've had the courage to go to the places that are so impermissible, the scariest, innermost, darkest places inside of myself, so that I could heal those parts of myself and come out the other side so free, so at ease, so trusting and faithful, that I can be right here with you right now. And I was in Phoenix yesterday giving a talk, and then I did 9 podcasts in LA, and I'm going to go write another book tomorrow in Topanga. And then I'm going to come back and do another 2 podcasts. And then I'm going to fly to Denver and give a talk. And you know what? I'm having a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm also really at ease, and I'm surrendering my so many things to my team, because I've attracted a team that I trust because of the state that I'm in. And I've got my amazing producer traveling with me, and we can have the best time ever. And I can go home and know that I need a day to decompress before I go into mom mode. And I can track with my nervous system and track with the parts of myself that used to be so extreme, and now they're not extreme, so they can do great work in the world. And so I can actually be so much more impactful now that I'm in this state of what I call in the book self. And I've got self energy. And self energy is like the inner parent inside of us. It's like a presence of connectedness and curiosity and creativity and compassion. It's kind of like a childlike nature. Yeah. And I was at dinner last night, and I was like with 2 of my really close friends, and I was looking at the menu, and I was like, I want the chicken soup. And I was like, I think I want the tacos, but I'm like, I really like the pomodoro. And I was getting so excited about it. And she looked at me and she goes, you're having so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, you're just living life in such a fun way. And I looked at her and I was like, that is the greatest compliment I've ever received. And that is very new for me. It's like, you know, a year or two new for me to live that fully in this way. Maybe a month new for me fully like that. And it was such a celebration that I could just be, you know, in the middle of this massive amount of work preparing for this book and blah, 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 and all the things I have to do, and being a mother and running a business of, you know, having like tons of employees and whatever I have to do, and just be at dinner and be like, which tacos do I want?
Yeah, and you get to have, because you feel good. And I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that, like, your work is, you know, we talk about the 12 steps of AA on my podcast sometimes, because people know that it's like one of my favorite spiritual practices, even though I'm not in AA, but I just love, like, the points of it. And the pinnacle is, like, being of service to others. And I think that when you are able to create something that is just so far beyond, like, you sharing your personal story, because the goal is that you're going to be helping millions of people, thousands of millions of people, however many. Do you feel like that takes some of the pressure off of it?
Hell no.
No?
Hell no.
No.
I mean, there are a lot of wounded healers out there, honey.
Yeah.
Okay. There are, I would say, most people whose faces are on the covers of self-help books don't feel safe inside.
Really?
And they might be trying to, or they might have moments of it. But the question really is, how willing and courageous are you to really go there?
Yeah.
And for me, it was for myself first. I've written 10 books. Every book I wrote for myself first. And then it was for my readers.
Interesting.
And if I'm not living and walking my talk, even in my most difficult moments, even in my most extreme moments when I was not fully here where I am right now, but really suffering, I was still authentic and truthful about where I was at.
Yeah.
And I was still in the deep pursuit of feeling better. And so I think that if you are looking to somebody and then writing these self-help books and you think that they're your guru and they pretend to be so shiny and perfect on the outside, it's bullshit. And you know what? When you hear someone like myself saying, I am so free, I'm so happy, I think you'll know it's not bullshit, because I've gotten so far to get to here.
Right. And because you talk about the times when it wasn't always like that.
Well, it really wasn't like that. Like last week when my meds weren't in the right place and my menopause struck back, and I was like yelling at my husband, like, I can't go on like this. And then I called the doctor and I got my, it's about your comeback rate.
Yeah. I totally, I talk about that all the time too, because I feel like I'm constantly, like, I'm so hard on myself because I want to be consistent, because some days are so great, right? But then it's like you show up and you're just not the person you were 2 days ago, and you fucking wish you were. But it's like, we're not really supposed to be the same person every day. And it's the days that are, like, I feel much better today than I did last week when I was, you know, I have to come here and I have to share part of my life. And I'm like, I don't really fucking feel like sharing today. Like, because I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm in a place where anybody could, like, learn anything from me, you know? It's like, but...
Well, I think that as someone who is in the seat of creation, the best place to create and share from is your truth.
Right.
Because that's all people really want from you.
Yeah. And that's how I think that is the only way I've been able to, like, kind of cultivate a community is because people do feel less alone in hearing some of the stories, because none of us are the same person from day to day, right? Like,
Never.
we're always changing. If there's one thing that you do to kind of keep consistency with your spiritual practice and keeping yourself feeling good, it's writing.
It's in the book.
Can you give us like a sneak peek?
So Self-Help is the book, and it's called Self-Help. This is your chance to change your life.
Okay.
And I mean every word of that subtitle. And it is the most important book I've ever written, I think. Actually,
I was going to ask you, what's your favorite?
My favorite's The Universe Has Your Back.
Yeah, I think that might be my favorite.
It's because it healed me to write that book. It healed me. I wrote that book when I remembered childhood trauma in a dream. And that year writing that book was the only thing that made me feel safe. And I think that's why it's had such an impact on the world, because it healed me when I was writing it.
Yeah.
This book is in the service of someone else, actually. My teacher and my friend, Dr. Richard Schwartz, invented a therapy called internal family systems therapy, and I became trained in that therapy. I used it in my own for the past 9 years. I've used it in therapy with my therapist, and I knew that it was so transformational for me in my recovery that I had to democratize it and demystify it. And so I've created a self-help book and a self-help method that's infused and informed by that therapy.
Okay.
So this method is about recognizing that all the extreme patterns that we have in our life, maybe picking up a drink or raging or overworking or people pleasing, or all the things that we might say are bad behaviors or extreme patterns, are actually protection mechanisms. They're ways of protecting ourselves from feeling impermissible feelings that we don't want to feel. And so those impermissible feelings that we don't want to feel are very young. They often started at a really young age.
Right.
So maybe we were little people, and we had these experiences where we were traumatized with a big T or a small t, right? So maybe you had, in my case, sexual abuse as a child, or somebody might have had a teacher that called them stupid. It could be big T or small t. But those moments in time are so significant that they build up this fear of, I never want to feel that feeling again. I don't have the ability in my brain to process that. I don't have a parental figure helping me process that. And so what am I going to do at a very young age? Unconsciously, I'm going to start protecting myself.
Right.
And so that's when we start, you know, if you had a parent that wasn't showing up for you, and they were, you know, not very strong attachment, that's when you start trying to attach yourself to other people to feel good enough. And that turns into a codependent addiction as an adult. I heard a sober friend once tell me that when he was younger, he was addicted to orange juice because of the sugar. And that was his way of numbing out when he was, you know, when he was trying to numb his little child pain.
Yeah.
And so that turned into extreme opioid addiction and drug and alcoholism.
Yeah.
And so these protection mechanisms start at a young age, and they run our lives. And so what happens is in this book, I'm guiding the reader to connect to what's called self, which is your internal parent. It's the part of you that's the God within you, the spirit within you, the Buddha nature, the part of you that's compassionate and connection and curious and creative and courageous, the courage I was talking about before, and has clarity. And this self energy is a presence that you have. Everyone has it, but we've just blocked it.
Yeah.
And so as we start to become curious about these protection mechanisms, it's a 4-step process of offering these self-like qualities, offering this internal guidance and parental guidance inside to these protection mechanisms. So let's say you were mentioning earlier that you want to maybe consider not drinking. And so the next time you want to pick up a drink, you might do the check-in process in the book instead. And so the first step would be, okay, I'm going to choose to check in. I'm going to focus my attention inward rather than picking up that drink right now. I have a little bit of awareness, so I'm going to focus inward. Step 1, focus your attention inward. And then you would, step 2, become curious about the part of yourself that wants to pick up the drink. And so you would start to ask some questions inside. So where does that part of me live? What does it feel like? Is there a place in my body that I feel that? Are there any thoughts or words or images or sensations that are attached to that? And you can say, you know, what do I know about that? And how old is this part of me? Like, how long has it been around? And you'd start to get that kind of connection to that part that wants to pick up the drink. And then the third step is to compassionately connect to that part of you and to say, well, what do you need right now?
Yeah.
And that part of you might say, well, I need to feel safe right now, or I need to play right now, or I need to just feel seen. And then the final step is to check in a little bit more and notice how you feel inside now that you've done this process, and ask yourself, do I feel a little bit more calm? Do I feel more curious about this part? Do I feel a little bit of courage to maybe look a little bit more deeply? Do I feel connected to this part of myself? And if you notice any of those seed qualities of compassion or connection or curiosity or clarity or creativity or courage, then you've done the work.
Yeah.
You've brought yourself back to self. You've brought the part to self.
Yeah. I've done internal family systems. I actually recently just did it with like a guided ketamine, with a medical doctor and a therapist, and we talked. We were working a lot on early childhood trauma stuff. I love that system. And sometimes I feel like when I try to use it, though, it is almost at odds with what has worked for me so well, which is like the step 3 of giving it to God. Like if I have, like, if I'm trying to quit, like I was addicted to vaping like not very long ago. And the only thing that got me fucking out of this trap, which it was like took me 10 times to quit, which like I did processes like that. And I did stuff where I was just really in my head. And the only thing that worked was just being like, okay, I surrender. I can't do it on my own. I'm going to give it to God.
So there's a chapter in the book, and it's called Choose to Change Your Life. And it's about how you can apply what I just did with your prayer practice.
Okay.
And so you could have that moment of being like, okay, I don't want to vape anymore. And so I'm going to give it to God. And then you say your prayer. And then following your prayer, you go and check in.
Yeah.
And this is a spiritual practice. This is based on a therapy. There's also a very spiritual therapy.
Yeah.
IFS is very rooted in spirituality. But self is God.
Right.
So you could stay in your prayer, I'm going to let this lift, and I'm going to give this to God. And then that sends your thoughts to a higher vibration.
Right.
But to really undo the core reason why you need to vape, you can let God, which is also the energy of self, guide you through those steps.
Right.
To start to add to your practice of your prayer.
Right. Like a prayer for like, help me to go through these 4 steps assisted.
Exactly. Welcoming God into the process, because God is self.
Right.
And so this is just another tool to get closer to that consciousness.
That does make sense. Because I do think sometimes one of the reasons why the just giving it to God doesn't work is that if you have a moment of like boredom or
they're spiritually
you just
bypassing.
Yeah. It's almost like you're not. You need both almost.
Well, listen, there's a reason that there's 12 steps and not just one step, which says give it to God.
Yeah. I think I only got to that step. No.
The other steps are hardcore. They're very
are.
similar to this, like taking inventory of your
Yeah.
life and really looking at the beliefs and the patterns and then giving that again to God. And,
Right.
So, yeah.
Do you still like go to meetings and?
I do. And it's actually sort of frowned upon in 12-step to talk about 12-step in these settings, just because the thesis is that if I went out, it makes it look like it doesn't work. It's like a PR issue, right?
Oh, I never heard about that part.
But to answer you honestly, yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Well, let's pivot to you as a mom, because I'm just curious. I mean, I know that I changed so much in my journey towards motherhood, and I had some trouble with pregnancies and miscarriages, and also just like postpartum depression, anxiety, like we talked about. Did it change your spiritual practice in any way, becoming a mom and everything you went through?
Yeah, it has strengthened my faith, because to live through postpartum, well, one, to go through the journey just like you shared, conception journey, and 3 years to conceive was strengthening my faith every single day.
Yeah.
And in my book, Super Attractor, I write a lot about that. And then in my journey of postpartum, it was like really challenging my faith and put me into a place of strengthening that faith. And the same goes for, I had a second pregnancy that I did 9 rounds of IVF, and I got one healthy embryo, and I carried him for 5.5 months. And I had to terminate the pregnancy to survive, to live. And that's really real right now in the world, that women's lives will be at risk because of their lack of reproductive health. And I'm really upset about that, and will continue to do whatever I can to be in the pursuit of getting our rights back. And so I had to terminate that pregnancy. And when I had that experience, I recall recognizing that that's what I'd been training for.
I can't imagine. I'm not gonna lie. I saw that on Instagram and I just cried, because I think I was in a postpartum journey at that time too. And I really can't think of anything more painful, because it's something you want so badly, and just having to like make those choices. And
it wasn't a choice for me, because I would have died. So that was really the only choice. And also the baby wasn't going to survive. Right. So it wasn't going to work anyway. Then I actually am really grateful that I didn't have that choice. I think having that choice would be, there's many outcomes that are harder and harder. You always say, oh, well, it could have been this or could have been that. So it was awful, but my faith held me.
Yeah.
And I literally looked at my husband. I was like, this is what I've been training for. I've been counseling women on this type of loss for 2 decades almost. At that point, it was like, 17, 18 years. Or no, it was like 16 years at that time. And I was like, the things I've been sharing with them work, because I'm going to make it through this. Yeah. Because of my faith.
Right. Do you believe in soul contracts?
Yes.
Like that baby had some kind?
That baby, he came to me for many big reasons. Mm-hmm. One, to remind me not to sweat the small stuff. Yeah. And so I always say Owen when I'm sweating the small stuff, because he's my reminder. That was his name. And he's just there telling me, don't sweat the small stuff. And I also recognize that I had the chance to have this soul inside of me and have him know what it was like to be loved by me for 5.5 months.
Yeah.
And the other thing that he came to me for was a very difficult way to realize that I only wanted one child.
Okay.
I wouldn't have gotten there any other way.
Yeah.
I had a story. I want 2 children. This is what we do. It just was the story. It was what
Yeah.
my husband wanted. We never even contemplated having one child.
Right.
But having one child is perfect for me.
Right. Yeah. I struggle. That's something I really try to work on. It's like, you don't know, you think you know what you want sometimes and what you need, but we don't really know.
No, there was a way better plan for me. And that was a terrible way to have to get to that place. But it actually is the only way that I would have.
Right.
Because at that point, I even tried to do one more round of retrieval after the pregnancy. And the doctor was like, "You're dried up, honey. Like we got like 3 eggs and they're not even coming out."
Yeah.
And then I went into menopause. So like the universe was like, "No, Gabby Bernstein, we want you to have this one incredible child, Oliver. And we want you to love him with all of your might. And you know what? We got big shit for you that we need you out in the world to do. And one child will make it so that you can give him all your energy.
Yeah.
And you can have one single pointed focus. And he can feel so loved by you. And you could take him with you on the road one day, just the 2 of you, because it's just one."
Yeah, that's true. I can
Nobody
attest to that
feels
too.
left out. Yes,
Sorry.
yes. And so, it was perfect for me. And it was my faith that really got me to get to that place.
Yeah, I mean, what a test in surrendering. I feel like that's just every day I'm having to surrender to my kids and just, the fact that part of our heart lives outside of us, and there's certain things we can control and there's certain things we can't.
Can't control it.
And the mom guilt thing. Like when I heard you talking about your tour that you're on right now, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I would feel guilty being away from my kids. How do you deal with that?
I do. Well, I actually talked to him about it, and I'm like, he's been alive during book launches, a book launch, multiple book launches, but one of them I did during COVID. So I was home.
Yeah.
I was doing it virtually. And then the other one, he was 2 and he was our 1.5 and he came with me and his nanny came with me. We traveled all over the world together.
Oh my God, how fun.
Yeah, that was right before COVID. And so this one was the first one he's experiencing as a full functioning brain and understands what's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm away. And I said to him, Oz, I'm in a book tour mode. And that means mommy has to go out and just to help a lot of people. And I have to do this stuff, and it's kind of where it's at. And he goes, I don't like book tour. And I was like, I don't like it that much either.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I don't love having to be away. And that makes it so that it's really important that when I am home, we have a special time. We do our special time. And that I really focus on that. So what have I been doing? I've been coaching his soccer team.
Oh, wow.
And this season I'm the soccer coach.
Oh my God.
I've missed two sessions, the last 2 because of this trip.
Yeah.
Which was heartbreaking. But the whole season I was the coach.
And believe me, 6-year-old sports is no fucking joke.
It's no joke. But you have to understand, like, the parents come up to me afterwards and they're like, "Thank you so much. Like, they're so motivated." I was like,
Yeah.
Little do you know. Like,
Yeah, they're getting like elite, like coaching in
legit
every way,
elite
spiritual.
coaching. I'm like a little bit too extreme with like the like fire. I'm like, you guys are the best fucking people ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, my team is literally undefeated.
Stop.
They we do like, they're like Colombia. They go by like different countries, and
Yeah.
who rocks the house? Colombia rocks the house. Yeah. And then they're all just like, and the parents are coming up to me being like, my kid's so confident, and I'm like, I know, because this is my mission. And my son's of course on my team, and my son's like so proud that his mom is the coach.
Yeah.
So like, okay, that's what I could do. That's how I could show up, and so maybe I'm not there every day right now, but he has a mom that he's never going to forget that his mom was the coach.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
My team is undefeated. Just
I heard that part, and my son has not won one game in his football, and I'm not going to coach football, so that's not going to happen. But good for you, because that's pretty amazing.
Okay, we do what we can.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I guess there's a few other things that I just wanted to touch on, because what really stuck out for me with Super Attractor was the last book of yours that I read, and I can't wait to read this new one, especially because it seems kind of short, and I can't really my attention span is not there. But I actually like listening to your voice.
You'll be able to listen to it.
Okay, because I have him on Audible, and you have a really nice voice to listen to.
Thank you.
But let's talk about like archangels, because I feel like for me, I grew up Catholic, and when I hear that word, I kind of like shudder a little bit as somebody who's like watching me, judging me. What's an archangel?
Well, first of all, I think that angels and spirit guides and ancestors that come back in spiritual forms are all energy, and it's completely non-denominational the way I teach it. That we have these energetic presences in our life that are available to us at all times to help guide our thoughts back to love, to help guide our energy, to guide us into more elevated situations. And so it's the beautiful message of asking it is given. When you ask your guides or your angels or God for help, that there is a presence that's going to be by your side. And so as I talk about spirit, I started to channel a little bit. My hand goes numb, and it's like I'm just channeling.
Ooh, okay.
If you don't mind. So I am a medium, and so I can speak on behalf of that spiritual realm. And so what the message really is that we all have access to this kind of presence. And when we start to do the spiritual development and we start to do the therapeutic work, or you do a book like Self-Help, you start to break down that wall that is just the wall that is this brick by brick by brick in the way of the presence of that connection. And each time you open a book like this, you dismantle the bricks of that wall and you get back to that presence of spirit inside of you. And when you're back into that energetic resonance of inner peace and connectedness and compassion and curiosity, you're now in the same vibration as the spiritual realm. Do you hear I'm talking fast?
Yeah.
So you're now in the same vibration. So if just to make it really simple, there's a big wall of all these life experiences that are a veil or almost a brick wall blocking you from your connection to spirit. You do these personal development practices, you do spiritual practices, you do 12-step practices, you do all of these incredible ways of healing yourself to return to the truth and the love of who you are. And in that place of truth and love, you have direct access to spirit. And spirit is a angelic form. Spirit is your grandmother. Spirit is just an energy field. Spirit is a spirit guide, and often the way that you interpret it is how it's meant to be for you. So if you have sort of like you're brought up Catholic and you have some feelings about angels, then you might not receive messages that are angels. Maybe you receive messages that you call energy, or it's going to be in a vision that's comfortable for your nervous system, that's relatable to your life experience. And so maybe it's a grandmother, or maybe it's so if it doesn't feel good to call on an angel, call on your guide, call on your grandma, call on the energy of the universe.
Yeah.
I don't care what you call it. I care that you call upon it.
Okay. Yeah. It reminds me a little, it sounds a little Abraham Hicksy to me.
Totally.
Which I love.
Yeah.
And I think, they don't call them angels necessarily, but it's something to do with the fact that like you putting that belief forward that like something good is on its way, and then accepting it and letting it in. Is that sort of it?
The Abraham work is all about the law of attraction, and that when you're in the energy of that high vibe frequency of love and joy and happiness, that you become a magnet, you become the same frequency as the spiritual realm, and then you can witness the law of attraction, which is just that you're a magnet for more of what your likeness is. And so what you put out, you get back.
Right.
But the real deeper dive there is that the beliefs that you have, the core beliefs that you have, are still there, even if you're practicing thinking high vibe thoughts.
Totally.
And so I believe the real manifesting flex is to do the deep inner work, so that when you do that deep inner work, you heal those core belief systems, and then you could be right where I am in the seat where I'm sitting with you, and I'm like, I'm fucking happy and I'm having fun looking at the menu and I'm just enjoy, and then it's really radical, right?
Right.
So there's no, of course you can do all these spiritual practices to change your thoughts, and I've written 10 books on these topics.
Right.
Like, this is excellent. And that's a first step. This is the next step, doing the healing of the core beliefs that block your resonance.
What would you say to somebody who says that putting something under a microscope isn't going to change it? So what's the point?
This isn't putting anything under a microscope. This is being curious about your feelings and sensations inside. You don't actually have to name it. You don't have to pathologize it. You don't have to go back to the depths of your darkest moments.
Okay.
You can just say, oh, you know what? I feel anxious right now, and I'm going to check in with the part of me that's anxious and become a little curious about it and extend some compassion to it and get back to safety inside. It's not about naming it or overcomplicating it or, telling the story 1,000 times over of your most deepest, darkest trauma.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah, interesting. How do you feel about psychedelics and people trying to like get to a deeper spiritual place and heal trauma through plant medicine or psychedelics or ceremonies?
I think that any form of plant medicine or psychedelics with the right therapeutic guidance and the right medical support, and particularly with IFS therapy, something along those lines, like what you're doing, is something that I think is very worth exploring. I think that there's a lot of big red flags, big stop signs that I see all over the place when I start to, particularly when I'm channeling this right now, is there's a lot of bullshit people out there pretending to be fake shamans. Run the other fucking way, okay? No fake shamans.
I've spent so much money.
No fake shamans,
like
because you know what? They're opening up your consciousness. You're just opening up like to a party that you don't want to be opened up to. And then I see a lot of people, particularly in this town, that the microdosing and the psychedelics become, they're not a healing device, they're a party. It becomes a party.
Right.
So it's just, sober people now doing this stuff thinking that they're healing themselves. And it's like, no, you're just using.
And there's usually a relapse
there's a lot
soon
of relapse
after.
Yes. And so the only way that I would recommend somebody look into this is through the medical path.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. And that's interesting that you have that point, especially coming from somebody who's sober, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so when you're talking to your spirit guides and then you talk about signs also.
Can I give you a message though?
Please.
Okay. So you were curious about sobriety.
Yeah.
And I think that your guides are saying that why not rip off the Band-Aid and just really consider it a little bit more deeply.
Yeah.
And it's just a suggestion. And that you have such a strong pull to spiritual faith, and you have a desire to crack open to your spirituality more, and you have such a desire to thrive and live. And they're saying you wouldn't have asked that question if you didn't want it. So stop questioning the question. I know. And that, I can be a resource to you, whatever. But it's like there is a level of awakening and cracking open that you haven't even contemplated yet. And it's so there for you, and it's so available to you. And it would be a first step.
I appreciate that, because I think it's something that I needed to hear. And I think it's almost like because I've been praying for like just more clarity on it.
Well, there's your clarity, sweetheart. It's a pretty clear message.
And I was just in the middle of asking you, like, what about signs? Because I remember in one of your chapters, you were like, my sign, is your sign a bird?
Okay, so baby, here is your sign. You're sitting with Gabby Bernstein. She's channeling your guides, and she's telling you that this would be something they would suggest.
It doesn't get much signier than that.
Doesn't really get much signier than that.
Yeah.
And it's, you asked for it. Asking it is given. You said it at the top of the show, right? You said, what about sobriety? And the thing that I can say to you from me, and I can look at you and I can say, when you get clean, you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams.
And I know that. And then when I get to, and I've done like, 6 months, 8 months, whatever. And then I'm always like, why am I'm not an alcoholic. Like, I'm always like, why do I can, it's fine. I can have one. But I do feel like
maybe it's not even about you. Maybe you don't even go into it saying this is alcoholism.
Yeah.
You're just saying like, this is a choice I'm making.
Yeah. I think it's a choice that I need to make in order to like crack that, to get past
the word
that.
Need, alchemize the word need and allow it to transform into want. That's what your guides just said. Isn't that beautiful? Alchemize the word need and allow it to transform into the word want.
Okay, I like that.
Pray for the desire just to get clean.
Yeah, I like that, because I think that, if I try
when you want it, it works.
If I try to fit into the mold of like why other people get sober, I'll never fit. And I think in this world it's weird because people are like,
but there's
well, why?
so many people that maybe didn't hit rock bottom, and like one of my very close friends, Melissa Wood, who
I love,
and Melissa got sober, and it wasn't like she went to a program or
no,
she's just like, this isn't right for me,
right?
And program's great, like do whatever you think your nervous system needs.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for the channeling. Self-help out now.
Yeah.
Okay. And where can we find you otherwise?
So I would say, first of all, go grab the book. This is going to change. It's self-help. This is your chance to change your life. Go to wherever you get your books. Go get the book. The other thing I would say is definitely check out my app. I'm going to give it to you today.
Okay.
But it's the Gabby Coaching Membership app. And the app is filled with hundreds of meditations, workshops, exercises, practices, daily practices, 2-minute daily practices. You can open the app every day and you can pull an affirmation card, like tarot card readings inside the app.
I was going to ask you about tarot. We didn't have time, but
and
I love
then
it.
if you read this book and you love this book, the app has this whole section with 11 guided self-help check-ins. So that if you're feeling anxious, you can let me guide you to check in with the anxious part. Or if you're feeling like a physical condition, you can do a body parts check-in.
Right.
They're all inside that app. And I'm telling you, it's hundreds and hundreds of meditations, workshops, guided. If you're interested in what I'm saying and you want me to be your coach, I will be your coach in your pocket.
So cool.
So that's deargabby.com/app.
So cool.
Amazing. Or just go to deargabby.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
I love
Such
you.
a good conversation.